Well, Barry, from your perspective, what was most impressive about what John did the other day?
Well, I mean, obviously the numbers were ridiculous in that regard. You never go into a game expecting or planning for something like that to happen. You want to be able to throw the ball effectively, and I think just a continuation of his poise and grit and decisiveness, and never batted an eye during the course of the game. I think he helped our confidence level in that regard in our team when we were down 27-12, and those two touchdowns right before halftime were huge for us, and kind of regaining the momentum right before halftime. But he, just probably from not necessarily start to finish, but the majority of the game he was spot on.
He's got a personality that guys really gravitate towards. I guess what have you just observed about that since he got here, and then really in the last week or so with the deal there?
He hasn't changed since he stepped foot. I mean, he was that way. The first information that we got, feedback, I should say, that we got back from just the players of, this guy's he's wired a different way. He's wired. He's he's an alpha personality, and but knows not to, he knows who he is, and he's very comfortable in who he is, and he's been the same way every day, whether he's been the starter or the backup or coming off the bench, and the first week here, or now being here for a significant amount of time, he's the same every day.
Isaiah, what's been the biggest key for him making the jump that he has made from your first year here to this year?
Well, I wasn't afforded, obviously the opportunity to be with him his first year here. But obviously watched some film and knew he did some really good things that year. I think he's just really committed to his craft, and he's got character, intelligence, and ability, and that's a fantastic package. When you have all three of those, when you have an incredible amount of character and an incredible amount of integrity and intelligence, like he does. I mean, that's to have those attributes being and also having some great physical qualities, that's usually a good formula to get the best out of who you are. And he certainly has done that on a consistent basis. I mean, he maximizes what how he was created and what he was created to be, and he does it on a daily basis. And I think that's been the key, is just a consistent attack and approach with all those and elements of having character, having intelligence, football intelligence, and then having natural ability. That's a good combination for him.
You've seen league defenses in the Southeastern Conference, but what makes Iowa unique to what they do?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, they they're a little bit different this year than they've been in the past. Just a little bit schematically, not enough to the naked eye that you would notice. They've got some nuances this year that plays to the strengths of who these guys are for them this year. Just like any coordinator would or should. But obviously the longevity of coach there, and the assistants, and just the system. It's year after year, they know, from when they get right in there from the very first day as a freshman, I'm sure it's, here's our system, here's how we teach it. They recruit to it. And they just, they're just so consistent. I mean, they make you earn every inch that you get. They make you earn it. And they very, very rarely make mistakes. And I think that's probably the unique nature of it, is just they're just so rigid and systematic, and then they're physical and tough, and a lot of good qualities you're describing. All those adjectives I'm saying, would be an earmark of a great defense, and certainly that's what this is.
The way they kind of chip the receivers off the line of scrimmage, is that a unique prep for your receiver core this week?
They do a good job of redirecting, especially inside. I don't think that's necessarily unique to some things we've seen during the course of the year. But, yeah, you're going to get pressed. You're going to get redirected. They're going to do a good job getting their hands on you. They know where their zones are. They know where the weaknesses are of their defense, and they play to that. And so, I mean, it'll be a challenge for everybody that steps foot on the field this week for us to match, the intensity and the physicality and the execution. We're going to have to execute at a really high standard to move the ball consistently.
So Bret, after the game, Luke's playing so well, then John does this. It's a good problem to have, but how do you handle this as a staff with these two guys moving forward?
Yeah, it's a really unique situation in that regard. Obviously what John is able to do, what he was able to do the other day, taking advantage of opportunity, and then to your point, Luke had, I think, really started hitting his stride. I think we got a great situation for our team there. You got two guys that have been playing winning football to a large degree, and that's a good thing. The more guys you get doing that at every position, the better off you are. And so, obviously, we have discussions about those things. We're going to have a plan moving forward, and I know Coach is coming in later, and that's something that he can speak more in detail about for us. But like, we feel really good about where those guys are at and the way they're playing. Feel really good about it, and so that's kind of how it is going forward.
Have you had a position room that's been hit, like injuries, kind of like the running back room has? Seems like it's been a little bit of a revolving door there. And then what's it say about Reggie to come in after missing those games and have the game that he did?
Yeah, it's been an odd year in that regard at that position in particular. We've had a lot of different plans each week on who was healthy and who wasn't. And, the one consistency has been in that room has been Thad, and the way he's handled that, and the way he's got whoever's been available, he's gotten them ready to play at a really high level. And Reggie was the latest example of that. It was like, okay, here's Reggie's week, and kind of his health peaked at the right time. And man, I just thought he ran as hard as well as I'd seen him run since I've been here with him, and just really shined during that game and took advantage of the opportunity. Was a big part of us winning that football game.
So there's a scenario where you guys could still win the West. You guys talk about that at all, or not? Is that too?
We're focused on our daily task at hand. Coach laid that out real clearly for us. The last month of the season. Literally we're going day by day and saying, here's our Monday prep of Iowa. And that's all we're focused on today is Monday prep, our game planning, our players' day off, and hopefully, some of those guys put some overtime work in on their own. It's only focused on today, and tomorrow will be about Tuesday of Iowa week. And I think that's been a good formula for us, is just to focus on the task that's at hand on a very minute scale.
Bret's mentioned that schedule a few times, he's laid out a schedule. What's that do for you guys as coaches or as players to have it kind of really dialed in as much as it is?
Well, I think it's just a way of Coach, from his leadership standpoint, saying here's what's ahead of us. Here's what we're focused on. Coach he's always been that way, and he lays out months ahead of time for our players. Like, here's your schedule, here's the off-season schedule. Now we got an 8-week cycle here, a 4-week cycle here, and he's very clear with that. And he laid out a 4-week cycle that said, here's where it's at, and we're going to take it one day at a time. Here's the big picture, and here's the micro scale of that, is we're going to focus today on Tuesday. So I think that's been really healthy for our organization. I think it's something our guys and coaches have really responded and rallied around, and has been a good thing for us.
As a unit, this has been your 4 most productive games in a row in the Big Ten. What's been the key to that? I mean, offensive line, obviously.
Yeah, I think the line has gotten healthy and stabilized, and Bart's done a nice job with those guys. They've continued to get better and better. We've ran the ball better at times. Our quarterback play's been better. Our wideouts have risen up. Obviously there's a lot to be desired about some of those performances, and there was a lot to be desired the other day about some moments that we didn't perform well in, that we can't have lapses in execution or play call in a moment in a game like we're about to play. We're going to have to be spot on for the whole entirety of the game. But I think it's probably been a myriad of things. We probably have, we just kind of leveled off and kind of hit our stride to some degree of like understanding who we are, what the lineup looks like, the consistency. Here's our balance. There's a lot of moving parts that go into that, but certainly have felt that. Obviously I think since the Maryland game, that I think our players have sensed and have got maybe a renewed sense of confidence. And obviously the other day should go a long ways in helping our guys in that regard as well. So.
With how Iowa has performed on defense statistically, with how the game here last year played out, do you calibrate expectations with your players on what type of game you expect?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you just look at the numbers, and numbers are one thing if they're through a week or 2 or 3 weeks, but when you go to 10 weeks and the statistics are what they are, I mean, there's a lot of validation into what this is who they are. I mean, they're hard to score against. They don't give up a lot of touchdowns, and so. I think our guys are confident in who we are, and to answer, as I answered that question, like that, I think our guys are in a good spot from a confidence standpoint and kind of hitting our stride offensively, but we haven't faced a challenge like this all year. So certainly we do, and we did last year, and we know that, listen, we're going to have to fight, scratch, and claw for everything we get, and our job is to score 1 more point than Iowa. Whatever that looks like, that's our job to try to figure that out. And do we expect it to be a shootout? Man, probably not, but we're going to have to fight, scratch, and claw. But we're excited about the opportunity that's ahead of us.
I think led to Ashton Hollins being able to step in for Pat the way he did, because it felt like that could have been a real big oh no moment when Pat had to leave the game, and he kind of stepped up.
Yeah, he did, and did a great job. Made some one really critical play, and Ashton's very very composed. He's very mature, and he's another one like Isaiah that was a quarterback in his background, and still every day is a new day for him. I think George has done a great job of developing his skill set, and Ashton just keeps getting better. Another guy that's got an incredible amount of character. He's got intelligence. He's got ability. Those are good combinations, and so that just continues to show that we've got other guys that we feel really good about to be able to step in behind those other, the three guys that played the bulk of the time for us. And Ashton was that was his opportunity because it was his position that that went down, and man, he was huge during the course of the game for us.
It's kind of hard to nitpick when you have 600 yards of offense, but some of the red zone issues and short yardage issues are those more highlighted against a team like Iowa that doesn't give up a lot of points?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we get down the red zone, and they're traditionally very stingy in the red zone. Iowa is, and we have to be able to maximize those opportunities and not kick field goals. And if we'd have done that the other day, if we'd have executed a little bit better, maybe had a different play call a time or two, we could have easily been especially late in the game, we had a chance to put it away, not put it away, but get it to 12 with 5 minutes to go. And I think that probably would have been enough to keep it from, getting as interesting as it did, but yeah, we got to be better. That was a big point of emphasis for us. We celebrated the way the guys played and the plays that were made and the way the line played, and we ran the ball. But we also know those critical moments, man, we have to be better. We have to be spot on when you're fighting and scratching and clawing for everything that you're getting, especially like an opponent that we're about to play.
Casey finally getting in the end zone.
Boy, that was a relief, and obviously our whole team was excited for him. I mean, that was something that it's just kind of one of those strange deals that you would. I wasn't even tuned into it, until a couple weeks ago that hadn't even happened, And for a guy, I think we've talked at length, and I know Coach has as well, like just what Casey's meant to our offense and his fearless competitiveness and his leadership and just bringing it every day. And that was awesome to see him break through with that. We need more of that. We need to give him more opportunities to help create touchdowns for us, because we're very confident when we throw the ball to him, good things happen.
Good.
Our way. No hard ones.
Secondary struggle a little bit.
Ooh-wee, to say the least.
What were some of the issues you saw on film?
Oh, man, it was a combination of a couple of just MEs, guys not doing their job, right? Yeah, it was just fundamentally, right, miss some key tackles, just bad football, man. Just things we preach on and harp on. I felt like going into the game, that's probably one of the smaller game plans I've ever had, so from a mental standpoint, because all the stuff we had been running, I felt good with it, Obviously on the outside, number one's a dude, right? Trying to find ways to get to some help earlier, but just things we can't have, and so you saw some guys go in that you probably wouldn't normally see, just because, I think when you're in a game like that you need to win, the last thing I want to do is wait till the game over to try to figure out the problem, and so like I've told all the young guys in our room, especially in our secondary, man, like you need to operate and function like it's 4th and 1 every play, you know what I'm saying? And so if there's a comfort level because you've been starting 8-9 games, you need to get that out your system, because nobody, at least on the back end, nobody has really garnered that, you know what I'm saying? So it was obviously it was unfortunate that we had lost Taz, but at the end of the day, outside of the one-on-one catches, right? Like things like that happen, right? It's a game of football. They're on scholarship as well, but it's just some things that I can't live with, in terms of mental errors and just flat out bust, And so we got them corrected on Sunday. I call it Tell the Truth Sunday. You can be real and transparent with our guys. We have really good relationships, and some of those conversations were hard, but they were needed, and I'm glad it happened. It's good that it happened to us and we won the game, because it's a lot harder than losing it, And so I looked up one time, I saw Toby out there, I saw Jaheim Clark, I saw Mac Resettage. I mean, there's a whole youth movement on the back end, and unfortunately, a lot of those guys got to learn by some trial and error and get some lumps and and you hopefully that next time around they're that much better.
That final touchdown pass, it looked like there was maybe a little bit of miscommunication.
100%. That solely falls on me. You know, we had preached in the off season, you know, if a guy is banged up or injured or something wrong, go down, right? Don't go down. You know, and I think sometimes like just players in general, right? It's a pride thing. You know, they're trying to fight through a play and they're trying to work through the next play, and it's like that doesn't help us. You know, and so again, it's always a learning moment, you know, like that's an opportunity. If a guy's hurt, we're trying to get him off the field. Better yet, tell him to go down. If a guy's hurt, right, or dinged up in any capacity, whether it's some with your head, some with your leg, go down so we can at least make subs, right? And we don't try to use the notion of just guys just going down for their own good. Like, I don't operate like that. You know, a guy has to be seriously injured or seriously hurt for him to go down. But if that occurs, right, don't try to be a tough guy, you know. And so that's a learned experience, right? It's happened a couple times, and right, it just happened with different guys. And on Saturday, it happened to be T Strain. We were trying to get him out or have him go down because he was banged up. Something was wrong. It was clear and apparent that something was wrong, and I was trying to help the kid, you know what I'm saying, so he wouldn't be put in that position. Obviously, he ended up scoring a touchdown on it, right? But that solely falls on me. That ain't on nobody else but myself, right? I have to be better in those moments, and I got to help our players be better.
How did Mac Brissett grade out for this game, and do you see a role for him in these last two games?
Yeah, I mean, so the cool thing with Mac, you know, Mac has done things throughout the course of the last couple of weeks that make you scratch your head as a coach. You know, I know you guys had a chance to see him have that interception. He had a play in practice on Thursday, right, where he rolled down into coverage, read the quarterback, and he picked the ball off with one hand, and it was ridiculous, right? And he had a play on Wednesday where he was tracking the quarterback and read his eyes and picked the ball off in the alley. And he's just subtly continued to do things every week, you know, that you see flash, and as a coach, it's hard to ignore that, you know. And I told the whole room, you know, like, I kind of single him out. Like I said, dude, your opportunity hasn't came yet on the defensive side of the ball, but it's going to come, and I guarantee you you're going to be ready. I guarantee you. And it just so happened, right, like he got thrown into the fire in the game, you know. We had a couple of busts on the back end, a couple of egregious missed tackles, and I'm trying to spark a fire under some guys, and he just had that look in his eye, man, like that same look he had when I went to recruit him and I watched him play basketball. You know, the same look he had in high school, the same look he had when he was playing baseball. He was ready, and I put him out there. He didn't bat an eye, and he was running around, and, you know, he wasn't perfect by no means, but, you know, he graded out pretty solid for a guy that, you know, he was a backup for us that didn't really expect to play, but when his number was called, he stepped in there, and that play that he made on that deep ball, you know, that's what you want from your middle of the field defender. You know, we were trying to do some things and helping some of the guys, especially number one, you know, and he was kind of toying with it a little bit like I wanted him to, and he just read the quarterback, and he got a break from the far hash outside the numbers. It was beautiful, man, and that's just a sign of what that kid is capable of. And I encourage him, and I encourage the rest of the room, like you guys, some of you guys made plays today. Some of you guys didn't play as well today. Why? Right? Like, we can dial up the perfect call, put you in the best position. Why? Why didn't you wrap up on that tackle? Right? Why didn't you run your feet? Right? Why weren't your eyes in the right spot? Why, when we're in cover two, you're not doing your job and being a half-field player as opposed to doing something else? You know, and so at the end of the day, like, and coaches kind of alluded to this, you know, going into these last couple of weeks, whoever can give us the best chance to win. Like, I'm not concerned about egos. Whoever gives us the best chance to win, fellas, that's who y'all gonna see out there playing. And I just felt in that moment that Matt gave us the best chance, and he went out there and did some really, really good things.
Can you give us any insight on the conversations with Taz Sunday? Just, it seemed like the frustration was continuing to build right up until he got ejected.
Yeah. Oh yeah, 100%. You know, like, obviously Taz is a very, very passionate player. You know what I'm saying? He plays a little on edge. That's what you love about him. But, you know, there are some things that he just can't do, right? And whether it happened, whether it didn't happen, it was kind of, you know, your ref said something, he said something. Obviously, he ultimately ended up being ejected. Yeah, I had a conversation with Taz in detail. I won't go into the full discussion of that conversation, but it's it's at the end of the day, it's not about Taz. It's about the team, right? And when you're in those moments, like Taz has to understand how that affects the whole team, because Taz went out, right? That we had to put Tyler in a position where he wasn't in, and so that it matriculated and affected ultimately, right? We ended up winning the game, but it affected guys that happened to be on the field in the crunch time of that game when truthfully Taz would have been out there. And so he's going to learn from it. He's learned from it. And we just had to have a man-to-man real conversation, just in general, right? Obviously, he had his thoughts and what he he didn't do, and the ref felt different, And so I can tell you this: we don't coach our guys to operate like that. Like that ain't how I do things. That ain't how nobody on our staff does things. And just know if I ever see a player do some of that caliber, he won't play for me, because that is unacceptable, And Taz knows that. And so he said he did it, and so. It's a back and forth thing, and you hope that they learn from those kind of moments, and more importantly, that the young guys learn from those kind of moments. But we had some real conversations, and me and Taz have a tremendous relationship, and so I know he'll be better from it on the back end.
Obviously, it was a huge challenge to replace the guys you had to replace in the secondary. Yeah. What's been the challenge? Like, what would you say about it 10 weeks into this?
Yeah, I mean I think the biggest challenge is, right, like. From last year to this year, you guys are seeing it, right? We were playing with pros in the secondary, right, last year, and so it made everything a little easier. And this year is just a tad bit different because it's a lot of youth back there. It's a lot of growing pains, some things you got to work through, but just trying to put these guys in position to have the ultimate success. And it may not be as pretty as it was last year, but I think if you do what you're capable of doing consistently, ultimately you're gonna be able to have that kind of success, and that's a part of growing pains, right? Like, even prior to us getting here, those same guys that got drafted, they went through a lot of those growing pains. We just happened to get them on the back end, and we were in a new system, and they happened to pick it up pretty fast, and they were already pretty polished and experienced, and so we're kind of doing that all over again with a younger set of dudes. And I tell you this, right? They're going to be that much better this time next year than they are now, and my head coach used to tell me all the time, experience is the best teacher, right? It's some moments that are very, very hard to replicate in practice, and so you need them to be thrown into the fire in the game, and hopefully they come up big for us. And it's really good when you come up with a win, because you can teach from those moments. Do I want to give up 45 points? Hell no, I don't, right? I had a sick feeling in my stomach, but I think at the end of the day, you're able to show the guys the tape and really, really like detail, okay, well, why did this happen, right? Like, and we have to get this corrected, because if we don't, right, now we're living in this, and this ain't what we want to be, right? Everybody talks about being great, but it's one thing to say it, and it's another thing to do it. So it's a daily challenge to them every single day. I'm specifically speaking to the guys in the back end, because like every team, right? Like teams aren't gonna, if I'm not running the ball against what we got up front, man, like I'm just not. Like we got some freak shows up front. I'm going to throw the ball. And so I think they knew that going into the game, and it was a personal challenge, and hopefully we can be way better this week than we were last week.
What do you see out of Iowa offensively?
Iowa is Iowa, man. Iowa's been doing the same thing from when I was in college. But I tell you, like, it's consistent, and it's really, really good. It fits their system, fits their scheme. They play really good complementary football. I took an official visit to Iowa, right? Funny enough, and they do what they do, man. They have really, really good players. They have a really good system. Coach Ferentz done a tremendous job. All right, Coach Parker on the defensive side of the ball, he's been there forever. He's done. They're going to play sound gap integrity football, right? They're going to chew the clock up. You may play like 50 plays in the game, and a third of those are going to be runs, and then they're going to catch you when you're sleeping and try to throw the ball over your head, man. And so, this week is really about having good eyes and being disciplined to your responsibility, because, right, they're block, and all of a sudden you see a tight end specifically wide open up the seam, and nobody's covering them. But I think it's a testament to their program and just their history. They've always done a tremendous job. I mean, they're consistently winning 7, 8, sometimes 9 games annually, just because they play really good complementary football. They do a really good job, obviously, on the recruiting trail and what they want in their program. And it's a testament to their head coach, to be completely honest with you. And I think at the end of the day, right, this game is going to boil down to, right, who can be consistent, right? Obviously last year the score was 9-6, and it may be a tight, very tight, low scoring game early on, right? You get to the end of the game, it's who can be consistent and do their job, right, and execute at a really, really high level when the game's on the line.
What are the challenges in getting pressure when your best players facing double and triple teams just about every play?
Well, I think some of the challenges are, that means if somebody's being doubled or tripled, somebody else is free, right? And so using in terms of scouting the opponents, just being very, very, very distinct when you want to pressure and when you don't want to pressure, right? Every play doesn't call for pressure, but what areas of the field can you pressure, and are there good pressures? And so just continually, whether it's the last game or a game like Iowa, I think a game like this, you just got to play sound football and have good gap integrity, and opportunities are going to come up, whether it's a punch on the ball or a tip ball in the air, and to get an interception, you have to capitalize on those moments. This is probably not going to be for the average college football viewer, right? Like, it may not. I told our players, like, don't get bored, right? Because I think just naturally, right, you get a team just running the ball, people can get bored. But as soon as you get bored, that's when they're going to come out throwing that thing, and we all have to be on our P's and Q's and execute at a really, really high level.
Coach, I know you're dealing with the defense during the game, but what did you think of John Paddock, just from a defense coordinator perspective?
That brother's lights out, man. Good for him. So happy for that young man. Like, anytime any one of our players have success, especially on the offensive side of the ball, we try to praise him. But anytime, that dude went out there and broke a school record, and it's awesome. Good for him. Good for his. He obviously has a family history here, and so it was really, really cool to see. And I saw the interview on the back end, man. Like that's what you want. Like, when you talk about a college football story, you see something like that. It was really, really awesome. And obviously I gave him a big hug after the game. The way he ended that last drive in overtime, and the way he kept the play alive, and it was really, really cool to see for him. I'm happy for his success.
Just want to hear from Doug a little bit. How would you evaluate the pressure you're getting in the non-Johnny Newton category?
It's obviously different when Johnny's in as opposed to when Johnny's not in. But I think that just from a holistic standpoint, right, teams are obviously focusing in a little more on Johnny and between trying to bring more pressure and play a little bit more coverage, because on some of the pressures we may not be getting as much penetration, or sacking guys in the backfield. It's kind of like a happy medium. You got to try to find that balance. And I know at the end of the day, what I don't want to happen, or I don't want to occur, is the high risk of bringing pressure and there's not really a reward from it because they can pick it up. And so just trying to put our guys in an advantageous position to continuing to play snaps, right, and keeping that ball out of the end zone. And so we may not be as disruptive as a defense when Johnny isn't in, right? He's a special player for a reason, right? Like when Spoon wasn't in, we just were different on the back end, And so I just think you try to manipulate things and put other guys in positions to not really make up for what Johnny's doing, but to kind of supplement it a little bit, and you hope that some other guys will step up in some roles and be really, really crucial and critical for you. Appreciate you guys.
Just a lot of stuff, Sunday after watching the film, especially on the offense side of the ball, just very impressed with a lot of guys. Obviously, a couple guys got headlines, but to be quite honest, Zai and Julian probably played the best football that they've played. Julian really in his entire career here, and Zai to date by far the best. He's put together a couple good strings of plays in a row, and then obviously Reggie, going into that game, really his first full week and we even actually backed off him on Wednesday. If the game heading into it, we thought obviously Kane would be the major workhorse, and then we thought Reggie somewhere 15 to 25. He ended up playing 67 plays. The way he played, just incredible performance by him. And really at the wide receiver position, Isaiah, Casey, Pat. Pat was having a heck of a game until he got rolled over on a sideline over there. They kind of grabbed his ankle and rolled it a little bit. And Ashton came in, and Ashton was just awesome. Not only his blocks, but there's a play where he actually freed up Reggie on that crack toss. It was just the growth that young man's had has been absolutely awesome. And then the quarterback play for for John was just awesome. Really, what we saw all week during practice was kind of what carried into the game. I know last week you guys had, we didn't really know if Luke was going to be cleared last week. He had a chance to pass the test on Wednesday, and if that was the case, that he had passed and he could have been cleared by Saturday, but that was ruled out from Wednesday. He actually did pass the next phase of the test on Friday. We took him and threw him around last night, but I'll talk about that in a minute. Defensively, obviously, way too many points, way too many penalties. It got to a point of ridiculousness, but there were some guys that played extremely well. Johnny just continued to be as impressive player as I've ever witnessed in my coaching career. Like, I know we've hit on it, but he just got up for the Bednarik. Is that the one's out already? And he's going to be mentioning a couple other here in the next coming days, and just a really, really, really impressive player to watch in many different ways. I thought Gabe and Seth together on the edges probably played the most complete game they had played. Gabe really came alive with a couple sacks and just the strength and the power that he has. Seth continues to move forward. Dylan Rosiak came in and did another really good job. And again, at the end, he made two critical plays, kind of like last week when he made some plays down the stretch there that were pretty important. So, and then it was really cool. I know we talked about him after the game. Mac Rasetic came off the bench and made a huge play that I think really could parlay into something special for him. Special teams, Hugh was incredible in the hang time. That's probably the best performance he'd had, actually, in the execution of the punt, the way we got it. David Alano, after hitting one, he really found his groove back in, I would say, more in line to what we had at the beginning of the year when he was really stroking it well. And then Caleb obviously missed the PAT, but to connect on the field goal is just really special from a national award standpoint. Obviously I already mentioned Johnny, but for Isaiah to get on the Blitnikoff, I know you guys know you've probably been tired of me here and trying to labor him into that, but I give Bret Moore a lot of credit, the detail that Bret puts together to get these guys on these lists. Just truly excited for Isaiah and the work that he's put in, and John had to get the Big Ten Player of the Week, and then also the national recognition on a few other awards have been absolutely awesome. Injury-wise, Reggie handled it really, really well. Like I said, we thought it was going to be limited. He came through for his teammates in a big way. Keith, I wouldn't say he's quite back to where he needs to be, but he definitely sucked it up and played and did as good as we could expect. And then I thought two guys that shined for us at times, probably played as well as we have seen him play. And Bryce Barnes got in and did another continued things. Caden, who's going to be to be determined, hasn't been fully functional yet. Obviously, we haven't practiced, but depending on how he handles the week, we'll determine his availability. And then, the guy that obviously everybody's going to talk about, Luke, he basically was in a position on Saturday that he could be no contact, didn't want to put him out there. You probably saw him out there throwing around. We don't normally go out on the grass on Sunday, but we took him out on the grass Sunday and threw him around with the wideouts and did some stuff he looked really, really good on. He can't get officially cleared until he goes through a couple protocol things this week, but as coaches, we'll kind of work through that during the course of the week and see where it goes. Zai rolled his ankle but went back out there and, again, played well. And then Pat Bryant didn't finish the game, but he was trying to get back in there. I don't know if we'll have him available for Tuesday, but the plan is to have him out there Wednesday and should be good to go by Saturday. So be nice to get some of these guys back out here and moving. Kind of excited. Iowa, obviously, we played Iowa since I've been here, but that was the week that Ryan got COVID the week before. I got it after him, and I missed this game the last time it was played. But to go back and more importantly, to play a Big Ten team that's at the top of the Big 1G West, right? And Kirk and I have known each other for a long time, worked for him, utmost respect, a lot of things that I believe in. I carried through the beginning phases of learning from him, so excited for that matchup and all that goes into it. Excited for our guys. Obviously, there's a lot to be said about what's all on the line, but really just to play Iowa at Iowa. It's going to be their senior day. I think it'll be a tremendous opportunity for our guys to kind of continue to grow and see where we're at. So with that, I'll open up for questions.
Well, how will you approach quarterbacks this week? Obviously, Luke not cleared, but even if he is cleared, how will you go about that?
Quarterbacks, because of protocol, they have to be cleared for contact, but hopefully your quarterbacks don't have much contact, right? So, it's kind of unusual to get a quarterback. So he's got to go through some things Tuesday that will clear him for basically, if he has no issues on Tuesday, he would be cleared full go if we played a game on Wednesday, just the way it kind of all lays out. So I think we'll just kind of take it to that approach. We'll just, if I've never been a coach that has ever put a player in a position that they've lost by injury, right? So kind of went through that with my first year, but obviously John has played exceptionally well from the time he entered the game 2 weeks ago against Minnesota to the way he played last week. But I think our guys will know the plan very clear Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and we'll make a decision as it gets closer. But the good news is we got 2 guys that we feel can play. And I'll say this, Donovan got a lot of work last week. We worked Cal into some things, so there's been some alternate plans that have been a benefit of this whole situation.
Big Ten, you mentioned briefly, Big Ten West, a chance to still get in there with a lot of things. Do you talk about that with the guys at all? Or are you worried about it?
I don't. Here's what I do know: in this world that we live in today, there's just so much availability for them to gather information. So on Sunday, we always take a kind of the look at the world of college football. I definitely showed them where we stand, with 5 other teams that are in the Big Ten West. I did make note of, we still had 2 teams that were listed above us, so we got to play Iowa, Northwestern, and obviously Wisconsin and Minnesota are behind us. And, the only team that's mathematically eliminated is really Purdue, right? So I think it's just one of those things. You make sure they understand it, but this really is. I've really had our guys focus the last 2 weeks on a daily approach. They've done a really good job, and we'll just kind of continue that momentum. But they are, I think, very aware of what could be out there, but they have to take advantage of this opportunity this week before it even matters.
You coach there, Kirk. Can you shed some light on what just makes Iowa so consistent year in and year out on defense?
Yeah, I think obviously the direction and the plan. Kirk was an assistant under Hayden, so Kirk tells a story. He actually lied to Hayden about his age when he got the job. They didn't do a lot of HR research, I guess, back then. I think he let Coach know that he was a little bit older than he really was. He always tells that story. I think it's kind of funny. And so he went there as a young coach, was around a lot of really good coaches, Dan McCarney, Bill Snyder, that staff, Barry Alvarez. It was an all-star staff that learned fundamental football. And then, I think as I've evolved in my career, I always go back to, I was with Hayden, obviously, I was with Kirk, I was with Bill Snyder, I was with Barry Alvarez, and every one of those guys had some Hayden things in them, right? And even Coach Alvarez, when he was around me, he would always laugh when he would see me do Hayden things, like within the program. So I think the foundation starts it, and then they just do a really good job of evaluating. Not just Kirk, Phil Parker, he and I were young coaches. I was a linebacker coach, he was a DB coach. He hadn't been around Norm in a coordinator role. As I didn't know Norm at all. He knew Norm a little bit. So I learned the defense through Phil and Norm. So the foundation of what this defense is, I was there for the whole part of it, and that's a huge factor in their success. Obviously, Phil's done an incredible job defensively year in and year out. LeVar Woods, who's their special teams coordinator, is a guy that I think the world of, that I actually helped recruit him to the University of Iowa, and he played when I was a coach. He and I have stayed extremely close. He's really close with Charlie Bullen. LeVar's a very talented coach. And then Brian, ironically, I coached in high school camp when he was playing linebacker before he became an O-lineman. So I've known all those guys for a long time, and tremendous respect. They just do things the right way and play with great fundamentals and good discipline.
What do you see as the cause for some of the secondary issues that you guys
What I see as a cause?
Yeah.
Some basic core elements. There were matchup issues. I've said many times in here, right? Like I am a big believer in matchups, and I knew going into that game, a couple of their receivers are matchup issues because of their just pure size and where they're putting them. Some technique came into play there. This is a repeat staff, repeat crew. We had this crew at Purdue, which we had some problems with. So there were some things going into the game we made our guys aware of and had to understand it. And people are human, right? Like there's going to be some things that come out. A year ago in the Purdue game, there were some things that literally carried into this game, like crazy how it all relates. But you have a Big Ten crew and people move around. So there was probably 2 or 3 big factors, and bottom line is they executed and we didn't.
You go from a shootout to possibly a grinded out type of football game. To be successful in the Big Ten, do you have to be able to win in a variety of different ways?
Yes, without a doubt. But I also think playing Iowa is a very unique animal. I think you probably asked Barry that, but I've played these guys a lot. Phil's been a D coordinator ever since I've been in this league as a coordinator and a head coach. So I think to know the way they play, you can't get frustrated. If you go look at their opponent's scoring points, take their offense out of it, right? Just about what teams score against them. It's very, very low compared to national averages. So you have to take advantage. Last year we kicked 3 field goals. normally in that situation, I might have been a little bit more aggressive on 4th down, right? But I thought the way that game was playing out, we could win with 3 field goals, and it's what played out, right? So I think you need to know your opponent, and your opponent this week at Iowa is you better take advantage of every scoring opportunity you get.
On that note, how do you prepare your special teams in this kind of game where Iowa really thrives off that too?
Well, they're good, but we're good. We've been, they got a punter that, not to make any light of it, right? He punts a lot, right? And he's really good. He is extremely strong leg. They got a good scheme. LeVar has kind of had a unique protection that Iowa has run that is a little bit of a different preparation than anybody else. And then obviously their return guy, number 3, is an incredible football player on defense, and then a really gifted return guy. He's averaging over 11 yards, I believe, on 21 returns. So he's a very dynamic player in the way he plays, in the way he can make something out of nothing. That play at the end of Minnesota, whether it was called right, called not right, like that, just an incredible play. It literally it looks like a movie, right? Like 9 guys are standing there and they all kind of fall down, right? Like that. That's very unique, just because of the skill set that he brings.
It's probably been a while since you've been back to Iowa City. Obviously, you missed it.
Yeah,
I don't
know. Yeah, it's been a long time. I don't think I've been back. I know I haven't been back since I've been in this league, and before that, obviously the 5 years at Arkansas. So yeah, it's been a pretty long time. We last year in the basketball coaches versus cancer, my wife, she likes getting in these auctions where she thinks she's got to win, and we won tickets to the Iowa basketball game that McCaffrey had put up for auction. So technically we have the ability to go to an Iowa basketball game this year. I don't know if that's really in the best interest of mine, but got so many good friends back there. Gary Dolphin, who is obviously the counterpart to Brian, is Gary Dolphin and I have known each other since I've been probably 21, 22 years old. He and I always joke around. I went to a golf event in the Quad Cities. He was obviously the radio broadcaster at the time, and back at that time I was young, early in my 20s, and I'd go play golf as much as I could. And we went to a golf event, a Hawkeye golf event, and it sounds like a joke, but my foursome was a nun, a man with one arm, and a midget, and the guy with one arm played with 4 putters, right? And we talk about that all the time because it sounds like a joke, but it was a definite reality that I lived in. To play 18 holes with a nun and can't say anything that you want to say with some other guys was just priceless. So I've got a lot of great memories, a lot of people that are a big part of my life. If you go there, I'd recommend the Wig and Pen Pizza right there close to the stadium. That is about as Dick Query, the owner of that place, is one of my best friends in this world. So a lot of really good people there.
Bret, offensive line, you mentioned some of those guys playing well.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's not the lineup you said you wanted before the season, but what are you seeing out of those guys?
It's kind of the lineup, but as you know, it's probably not the way I thought they're going to line. I really, Isaiah Adams, I really think in this year's draft he'll be one of the most highly sought after interior linemen in the draft, and he's playing out a tackle the whole year and has gotten better every game. And Isaiah and then Julian to play with a cast. And to play that way with his right hand, his eyes battled through injuries. Geske has really started to play well at left guard, and Krutzy has continued to get better every day at center. So not surprising, right? I think a lot of our issues in the beginning part of the year was some things were the way we played up front offensively, and not surprising when we have a little bit of success how well we're playing in that offensive line. I give Bart a lot of credit. I knew that was a big game for him. Bob Bostad is the O-line coach in Indiana, who was my original O-line coach, who actually Bart played for. So there was a lot of things into it, but even like today, I just literally left football office and they're making up their game plan. And, for us to be successful this week, we got to be able to run the ball, and we got to be able to play our kind of football. It's really going to be kind of what both teams do, right? But I think for us, there's definitely some things that we did a year ago that were good that hopefully can carry forward. That Iowa doesn't change all that much. Their players change, right? That middle linebacker a year ago was an incredibly talented player. They had a couple of edge guys, but they always got good players. So it's going to be a tremendous challenge, but it should be a fun one.
I don't know if you saw Zach Arnett fired today at Mississippi State. Just curious if you have any, just in January you were sharing a podium with him.
Yeah.
I'm just curious if you have any thoughts on, college football and coaching and everything else.
Yeah, I hit Zach up before the year started. I just was around him. Now, him and Bart Miller are actually college teammates. So there was some carry over when that announcement happened, and Mike and I were extremely close, right? So I you know, he and I shared some stories around that whole time frame. I have tremendous respect for Zach, and unfortunately, you know, it's more and more every year. It seems like things are getting a little bit quicker. Some places money does not matter, you know. So, you know, this is a profession we all choose. I'm not really here to make anybody else's decision. I just kind of focus on the one I got. But it's part of college football, and it's, you know, even, you know, like I always gauge it by my Sunday breakfast, right? So I usually, if we win, I take my daughters to La Peep, right? And mainly the reason I do it after wins is everybody's really friendly, right? If after a loss, I probably get bounced to the end of the line the whole time, right? So it's just, I think in today's world, everybody just feels there's got to be a strong reaction one way or the other, right? And I think when you sit back and assess and take things through, Bret does a great job of, you know, there's some things, some milestones that we're accomplishing right now in our program that I have no idea that we're doing it, right? Like, of course, I don't want to be a 5-5 football team, but with that, we've won a lot of games here the last couple of years that hasn't been done here in a long time, and we're on the verge of doing things, and I can't be reactionary and lose focus on. I'm just trying to get better every time. But I will, you know, I lifted up to experiences because of some of the injuries this year, the way things have laid out. You know, there's a couple scenarios that we had a couple kids that were committed to us. We fell off at the end and didn't get them in, and then because of the way they fell off, I couldn't get someone in of their caliber. And having a couple immediate impacts on positions we've needed this year, and it profoundly affects your team, right? So, like, this rule that allows us to kind of adjust our 85 scholarship, it's something I'm really glad I had the 3 years of NFL experience, because that's really how you got to manage a team right now. It's a very ever-flowing roster with 85.
It seems like people really gravitate to John, your offense in particular.
John Paddock?
Yeah. What is it? What kind of skill, I guess, is it to have that where people?
Yeah, you know, John, as you guys have been around him, a huge personality, right? Like, you know, the first time I met him was through phone, right? And then hadn't been on a visit. You know, the thing I love about John, he's you know, very strong personality, but not like some people will have that and you'll be like, what is this guy all about, right? Like, he's just very genuine, very real. I saw that post-game interview, right, where he said, you know, I'm a 6-year walk-on quarterback. I'm just going to let it rip, and that's him, right? Like, I think he's genuine every day. A lot has been said about his journey, right? And he kind of does have that approach in his demeanor, and I think that's what makes it easy. I think a lineman, literally in the locker room, the first thing he said, linemen, wide receivers love you, right? Like, that ain't fake, right? Like, that's what it is. And our defensive guys, I think, from day one, you could see the way they responded to him. So, yeah, it's a fun time, and we'll see how much more we go.